Star Citizen Alpha 3.18.2 has now been out for 4 days, and the least that I can say is that I have not been impressed by this update, and so I will tell you why in today's video. Hello guys and welcome to the channel, it's Erad, and so today I'm going to give you my first impressions of Star Citizen Alpha 3.18.2. I have played thoroughly now this patch, and so I am ready to give a little bit of a feedback here about what was supposed to be the one, right? The patch for 3.18 branch that would make it playable and worth checking out and worth grinding. So first, let's talk about a couple of positive, I would say. Now, this one I'm not sure if it's a positive or not, but money and reputations were actually not wiped, despite being announced that they were going to be wiped. I personally would have preferred that to have been wiped, because in 3.18.1 I had some issues that made me lose a lot of money and reputation as well, so I would have preferred starting with a fresh start. But let me know in the comment section down below also, what is your stance here? Do you think that it would have been better if Star Citizen developers would have stuck to their words and wiped 3.18.2, especially given all of the exploits that happened? I don't know, but let me know in the comment section down below how you feel about it. Also, I was able to complete missions, including delivery and FPS missions, which was something that was actually in the known issues for the patch notes for 3.18.2. Apparently, delivery missions and FPS missions were not completable, but I was able to finish all of mine. So also, please let me know in the comment section down below if you have had issues with delivery missions and FPS missions. Also, ASAP terminals have worked almost every time, except for the first 2 hours of the patch. When the patch was released, I immediately got in, and the first 2 hours were really rough. It was just impossible to get any ships. But then somehow the developers, especially in charge of the backend, I believe, have brought a hotfix that managed to fix the issue. And since then, I've been able to use all of my ships, so that's great. Also, speaking of ships, I have not died from ship sits, so that's also a change from the previous patches, especially with the Cutlass. I like to fly a Cutlass, and the Cutlass was quite deadly, especially when you were entering from the right side of the sit. It's not the case anymore. That's wonderful. Speaking of sits, I've been able to go in and out of ship sits every time. I've never been stuck in the sits, so that's also something that was plaguing the 3.18 experience, but it's not here in 3.18.2. Now, unfortunately, I believe that this is where the good stuff ends, and there are still quite a lot of negative issues that need to be talked about as well. So first, NPCs, right? Let's talk about NPCs. They have never been responsive, both in space and on the ground, which is really a problem, especially now that Cloud Empire games are highlighting their Xenothreat dynamic events. Well, that's great, you know, to advertise large battles, but if the NPCs are just flying around and not doing anything, it's not very fun. And it's the same in bunker missions. They're just there. I was shot a few times and I never died from them, despite not taking any precaution measures, so it gets boring very quickly, unfortunately. That's probably because there are lots of players trying to log in for the Xenothreat event. It's probably having a heavy toll on the server. Speaking of servers, 30Ks still happen, and as far as I am concerned, the 30K recovery tech has not worked, meaning that unfortunately I lost 80% of my money in a trade run when I was testing trade for the upcoming patch review, so you can imagine how bitter and sour I was after this happened to me. Also, for some reason, sometimes it can be impossible to call a hangar despite no one being at the station. For example, while everybody was at MiG L1 or Port Tressler for the Xenothreat event, I was at Everest Harbor above Hurston, and there was literally no one there, and yet the ATC said that all of the hangars were full despite no one being here. Speaking of full hangars, so when you do Xenothreat, everybody then lands on a few pads that were left, resulting in them being overcrowded, which may result in occasional ship destruction, which may give you a crime stat. Now, if for some reason you end up in jail, you may end up in a loop that will forever take you to jail, as you will systematically respawn in there when you come back to the game, even if you escape prison and log out somewhere else. Also, I've had some serious clipping issues at planetary outposts, especially on Hurston, which resulted in pretty low performance as well as low loading times for the local assets, and it was quite a hindrance indeed. Speaking of those outposts, well, you can still fall off the stairs and if you're unlucky, die, which is quite a hindrance, especially if you're trying to grind reputation with the delivery missions, right? Especially with Red Wind deliveries, you want to do eventually those illegal deliveries for when will. Well, if you die by falling off the stairs, it can be quite infuriating, especially if your corpse clips through the planet and you can never retrieve your gear and your box. Also, speaking of deliveries, well, they still force you to do some combat at derelict outposts, especially when you are doing the entry-level mission, which does not make any sense. Cloud Imperium Games, it's the entry-level mission. It should be the easiest one, from one normal outpost to another normal outpost, and that's it. And then eventually, you take the derelict outpost because it gets a little bit dangerous. I don't know any legit companies that send you to such dangerous places on your entry level mission when you are starting the job. It's just something that never happens. It feels very unrealistic and it just doesn't make any sense. Also, we should be able to choose whether or not we want to do a delivery at a derelict outpost or not too. So there we have it. These are my first impressions of Star Citizen Alpha 3.18.2. It's not very good. And as far as I'm concerned, my main account is screwed because of the forever prison loop, so I have to play with my alternative account. But I understand not everybody has got an alternative account, so here's my tip for 3.80.2: do not go to jail. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, we got a giveaway on Discord. We're giving away a Scorpius and Taurus, so if you want to be joining in, well, you can join our video sharing contest or enter your name if you are a Patreon or a YouTube member. I will see you guys next time. Thank you to Dr. Farmin, Wolf, Papak, Zero Crusher, and Deplorable Infidel. I've been Irad. Have a great day. Cheers.